Welcome into the Hot Read Podcast. I'm your host, Easton Freeze, Director of Published Content here at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. We're also brought to you by the 440 Podcast Network. You can follow me on social media at Easton Freeze. I'm joined, as always, by producer JT, who you can follow on social media at JT_Runke. JT, how are you? Back at BOOMBOZZ Pizza, live here in Spring.
Yeah, excited. Happy Thursday to us, Friday when this goes live on our recording, and it is officially our long-awaited rivalry week once again. So I'm excited to be here talking this Bengals and Titans matchup.
3 years on the show running, Titans and Bengals have faced each other, and three of the past three, the Bengals have come out on top, and the Titans have left underwhelmed. And we're going to talk about why that might be the case this week and why it might not be. Reviewing everything Titans Bengals ahead of Sunday's matchup at Nissan Stadium. Before we do, got to tell you about our wonderful and amazing sponsors here at BOOMBOZZ Pizza. 3 locations in the Middle Tennessee area here in Spring Hill, where we're live each and every Thursday. Also in East Nashville and in Murfreesboro, wherever you are in the Middle Tennessee area, you'll find a BOOMBOZZ Pizza, and they are fantastic at what they do. What they do is make delicious craft pizza and have a fantastic selection of beers on tap for you. We have not had anything to drink yet today, but I know that once we are done here, we'll be heading to the bar to watch Thursday Night Football. Packers, Lions. Should be a much more engaging episode of Thursday Night Football as compared to what we saw last week with the Giants and the Niners. I'm actually looking forward to this game. I think it'll be a telling game. I think it should be a pretty tight game. And we may even be betting on that game later in the Best Bet Gauntlet. We'll have to see. But BOOMBOZZ Pizza is great. You got to check it out wherever you are. Also in Indiana and Kentucky, if you're from out of town, there's BOOMBOZZ Pizza all around this area, and we cannot wait to have as many of you come throughout the season as you possibly can to come hang out with us. We're doing gift card giveaways most weeks, I believe. So if you're the first person to come in to the Spring Hill BOOMBOZZ location, come shake our hands, say what's up, hello, fan of the show, or hello, I hate the show, or hi, I'm vaguely familiar with who you are and what you're doing here. We'll be happy to provide you with a gift card. You can have free food and drinks. I mean, I shouldn't have to sell that much more than that, JT.
No, not at all.
Get in your car, travel to BOOMBOZZ Pizza in Spring Hill, and get free food and watch Thursday Night Football on one of the 347 TVs in this restaurant. So that is something that you should do. And we still today, kind of a slower day out here. The traffic in the Nashville area has been kind of bad today. It took us both about twice as long as it typically does to get down here from the Nashville area. Now that rush hour is over, hop in your car, come on down. That gift card is still up for grabs. If you're watching with us live, by the way, today, appreciate you being in here. I know that Titans fans, I can sense amongst the fan base some fatigue this week. I can sense there's a lot of folks losing interest in wanting to talk about week 3, wanting to look forward to what this team can do this week and through the rest of the season. And I know that there's a lot of reason for folks to not be as jazzed about this team as they were 3 weeks ago. I'm not somebody that jumps to conclusions within the first month of the season. I've seen far too many bad teams in September end up being good teams in December and vice versa. So I think that September and October are about staying afloat. And as long as the Titans can do that, that is the bar. You can't be 1-5. No team in NFL history has gone 1-5 through the first 6 games and made the playoffs. So you got to stay afloat. They need to win at least 1, probably 2 or 3 more games before they get to their bye in week 7. But assuming they do that, I'm not super worried about this team. I'm less looking for wins and more looking to see positive momentum week after week. And obviously last week was a big setback in that department. But I do want to talk about the differences between that Browns team and this Bengals team. And so let's dive into that, JT. Some stats and info ahead of this game that I want to lay out for folks. It's kind of shocking to see how few yards of total offense this Titans team has through 3 games. Just 720. I believe the league leaders, the Miami Dolphins, have something in the 18 or 1900 yard category. It's something way up there. It's
certainly we'll do that when you score 70 points.
It's hard to not have many yards of offense when you score 70 points in a game. Yeah. But despite the Titans only having 720 yards total offense this season, you go and you look at where the Bengals are sitting, and they are just 13 yards better, 733 total yards of offense for them. This is, I think, pretty easily, in my opinion, the worst version of the Bengals the Titans have seen in the past. This will be their fourth meeting. I think that this is the worst version of Joe Burrow. It's certainly worse than he was the past 2 years. I'd say even worse than the rookie version that they saw 3 years ago. That game, as in his rookie season, was kind of his coming out game, kind of his, here's Joe Burrow, look at what he can do when given time to operate. He can slice and dice you up. And that was something where it's kind of the case with a lot of Titans games.
Yeah.
Like with Deshaun last week, it's like a welcome back to the league. Deshaun may have been fixed by the Titans defense. That was kind of what the Bengals and Joe Burrow did 3 years ago. I think that was a better version of Joe Burrow than we're seeing right now. And that's only because of his injury situation. Had that calf pop very early on in August, I believe, very towards the beginning of training camp.
The first week.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm right about it being early. And then he takes all of training camp off with rest, comes back for week 1 and 2. He looks fine, tweaks it at the end of that week 2 game. Was very much a question mark going into the Monday Night Football game last week. When you listen to Bengals folks in the media market talk about it, it sounded like up until Saturday of last week, people were pretty sure it was going to be Jake Browning. It was going to be Joe Burrow taking the week off because they were afraid that he'd really suffered a significant setback with that calf. He ends up getting back to serviceable movement ability quicker than many imagined, and he goes in that game. From what we heard from him after that game, and from what we've seen from him in the injury report this week, it sounds like he didn't suffer any kind of setback in that Monday night game. And so what you saw Monday night is probably what you're going to see again this week from him mobility-wise. They've been running 99.99% of snaps out of the shotgun. They do not want him taking many steps backwards or at all in the pocket.
Yes.
I think they rolled him out once on Monday night in a bootleg. Like he is as much of a statue as you may ever see Joe Burrow, unless he plays until he's 45 years old. And that presents a very different kind of challenge for the Titans defense and for their pass rush that needs a get-right game this week, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Some more stats for you. Per ESPN Stats and Information, the Bengals are allowing the NFL high 10 yards per pass attempt, with the Titans right on their tail at 9.7 yards per pass attempt. The Titans have allowed 12 completions of 20-plus yards, tied for the sixth most. And just for reference, the Titans and the Chargers, former Titans opponent from this year, they've allowed a league-high 4 completions of 40-plus yards this season. The Bengals' pass defense has been allowing these chunk plays. The Titans have been trying to rip off. Now, we've talked this week about how the Titans have gone too much into the try to run the ball and try to take shots downfield. They've eliminated the middle class in their passing game of taking short to intermediate shots and trying to slice and dice a defense. They have to get back to that. But if they are wanting to still take those shots downfield, which I don't see why they shouldn't, it's worked for them 3 times in the really, you could argue that DeAndre Hopkins catch in the Browns game, maybe 4 times in the past 2 games. They should continue to try to do that. And against this team, so far this season, teams have been able to do that. And so with that, JT, let's talk about something that I heard from Ryan Tannehill on Wednesday at his press availability with us before we dive into the specifics of this Bengals game. I rarely talk about the Tannehill pressers on our Thursday preview show because it's kind of old news by then, and he doesn't always say anything of much import. He's very good at the coach QB speak. But on Wednesday, he was pretty accepting of the fact, in my opinion. I was talking to our buddy Sam Phelan about this after the press conference. He seemed pretty reticent, pretty accepting of the fact that his offensive line is not great, and there is nothing he can do about it. It was very much a "this is who I've got" energy from him when asked about his offensive line. You know, he was asked about what he feels he can do to motivate his offensive line, help his offensive line get, and in the past when he's had that kind of question, it's been a lot of, those guys are battling up there. They are winning some, they're losing some. That wasn't really the vibe on Wednesday. It was kind of like, I have to make do with what I've got from him, which is surprising and honest and accurate because we know his offensive line right now is doing him no favors. The age-old adage that I've continued to think about this week, and I think it rings very true with this Titans team. It rang very true with last year's Titans team. You just can't have 2 bad tackles. And you can talk till the cows come home about how you've got to slide protection the way of Andre Dillard. Well, if you do that, then you're taking away protection from Chris Hubbard, and he's not good enough to be left on an island. Back and forth, you got to chip on these plays. When you're in the red zone, you can't let Myles Garrett come clean around the corner. We can talk about the specifics like that all day long. At the end of the day, it's just impossible offensively in the modern NFL to get away with having 2 bad tackles. You have to have at least one guy who you can trust with some kind of regularity, some kind of certainty to leave on an island on key plays against some of the better pass rushers in the NFL, and for him not to get schooled. The Titans just don't really have that right now with the level that these guys are playing at. And there's a video from today's press conferences with offensive coordinator Tim Kelly that I wanted to play. He was asked about if last week the Cleveland pass rush and the success they were having against the Titans offensive line was a big limiter in his ability to call plays in that game. The variety with which he wanted to play call, maybe the game plan that he came into the game having to scrap some of that. How much of the offensive line lack of success for the Titans impacted his play calling ability? And he keyed in on how no matter how the offensive line plays, no matter how the defensive line they're facing plays, if they are getting themselves into second and third and long, whether that is taking sacks, whether it is blown assignments on the offensive line, whether it is pre-snap penalties, which we've talked about earlier this season, they just can't do that and be efficient and effective. Let's listen to what he had to say. So the big topic I want to get into today, JT, and this is the discussion I want us to have. In this game, who needs a big bounce back performance the most? And I put out a Twitter poll about this earlier today. I asked a bounce back performance from which Titans unit would be the most likely to result in a win against the Bengals. And the 3 units that I offered as options were the offensive line, the cornerbacks, or the secondary, and the defensive line and the Titans pass rush. The results of that poll weren't surprising to me. 67% of the almost 600 people that voted said offensive line was the biggest need in terms of a bounce back game. And I can't disagree with folks there, just because if Ryan Tannehill is being pressured in the way that he was in Cleveland this weekend or against Cincinnati, then the offense will be non-viable once again. It will always be non-viable that way, with Ryan Tannehill being immobile at his age, with this offense's need to be efficient. That's fine and good. But I want to make the argument on today's show that only one of these 3 groups, the offensive line, the secondary, and the defensive front, has ever done something, has ever given you a reason for you to actually put significant faith in them. And the good news is, because of that, they have the capability to win this game, I think, with a standout performance. But we haven't seen it in 2 weeks, and it's the Titans pass rush. They were hectic in New Orleans. They made that game close. They did a lot of great things. Arden Key flashed in his first game as a Titan. All of that. Danico Autry was fantastic. Since then, it's been relatively quiet. Justin Herbert, very good at navigating the pocket and in the quick passing game. Deshaun Watson last week, they had their hands on him a number of times. There were at least 3 or 4 sacks in that game that were there for the taking, and Deshaun Watson, being the wizard in the pocket that he's always been, managed to escape those. This week against Joe Burrow, it's nothing like that. The only defense Joe Burrow has against the Titans pass rush this week is his prowess in the short and quick passing game. And he's fantastic at that. Before he got hurt, he was fantastic. Impact killed them. The Bengals have been able to mitigate the effect of the Titans pass rush with how fast they get the ball out. They need that now more than ever against this Titans team, because Joe Burrow is, dare I say, more of a statue back there than Ryan Tannehill is right now because of that injury.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. I think that when you break it down, that is the most important this week. I also think that, to your point, I think a bounce back week from the secondary as well. I think that would be my pick of it. So I think we have Titans fans who obviously think the offensive line needs to get better. You were making
does all three of these? I mean, like
No,
it's not like you should only hope for one bounce back.
Choose
All
one,
three
yeah,
of these
yeah.
groups should be better, need to be better.
But like the Titans offensive line, certainly they think that against this this Bengals defensive line, which is sneaky like one of the top groups in the league, and then I don't think they're talked about just because of the name factor isn't really there for a lot of those guys.
Sure.
The offensive line does have a really big challenge ahead. I think the biggest challenge, though, that we cannot continue to overlook is the secondary matchup that guys like Christian Fulton and Sean Murphy-Bunting and the entire group they're going to have in this like three-headed monster of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd.
Sure. I mean, listen, I'm actually relatively confident in the abilities of Roger McCreary and Sean Murphy-Bunting to be just fine. The guy that I have no confidence in is Christian Fulton. And if the Bengals are wise, they will just target whoever he is on until he can prove that he can do anything but be allowing perfect passer ratings against him when targeted so far this season, which is what he's done. I think that Sean Murphy-Bunting and McCreary will have a better game, or not better, just a good game against who they're facing, because they have been sneaky good this year. The more I watch of them on film, the more I am impressed by them. And the more I watch of Christian Fulton, the more I am completely befuddled by his performance so far. And that's how I think the Bengals will probably come out, like the way that we saw the Chargers target Trey Avery, just pick on him relentlessly in that game, in the short passing game in week 2 against the Chargers. It would not surprise me at all to see them do that pretty exclusively against Trey Avery when he's out there, but against Christian Fulton, who's going to be out there for most of the snaps. Now, maybe you get a short leash Xavier Newman-Johnson situation and I don't think either of us are anticipating the Titans giving Christian Fulton the hook soon. But I think we also both agree that they should, if it continues to be this bad. Maybe they surprise us. Maybe they do. But assuming they don't, he's out there and they're letting him battle and try to figure it out, the Bengals are probably going to pick on him with that short passing game. Some stats on that short passing game real quick, and then I want to hear your thoughts. Next Gen Stats says that the Bengals' average air yards per attempt through 3 games this season is just 2 yards. So it truly is dump-off city for a guy that's desperately trying not to get hit or have to navigate the pocket back there. In the pass protection game, the Bengals have a rookie left guard in Cordell Volson, who we covered in the spring. Last week against Aaron Donald in primetime, he put up a very genuinely impressive 0.0 pass blocking grade according to PFF. That'll happen against Aaron Donald, but 0 points, like, if you told me he had a 32.7, I'd be like, yeah, it's, that's Aaron Donald. What are you going to do? He's a rookie. 0.0 literally never did anything positive. Yes. It was truly every snap he was getting cooked. Jeffrey Simmons is a step down from Aaron Donald, but how big of one? I don't know. And I think Cordell Volson versus Jeffrey Simmons will be a maybe deciding factor in this game.
I was going to say not even just Simmons, but a Jeff Simmons who kind of is angry at the world because of events that we can lightly just say happened, and but this is a dude that is looking to bounce back. He's been
pissed off for greatness this week.
Yes,
for sure. He talked to us in the media. We can't say this part. He's been very adamant about how we've just got to find a way to win. Yes, this guy is desperate and hungry for a win.
And I think that while the player, Aaron Donald and Jeffrey Simmons are maybe not talent-wise there, I think the emotional part of this game, especially for Jeff Simmons, to get this defensive line back on track, puts him pretty close.
And he's had a pretty quiet 2 games in a row now. And not that he's been bad on tape. You can actually see the box score scouting of Jeffrey Simmons through the past 2 games doesn't tell the full picture. He's actually been quite good. But he's not been affecting the quarterback at, when it comes down to brass tacks, he's not been getting home.
Yes.
And so that's something that I think that he'll look to do this week. A number of guys up front. I mean, like we saw with Danico Autry, fantastic in week 1. He's been nursing a bit of an injury recently, but not been super effective since then. Harold Landry has not, we've not been expecting much from him coming off of the ACL, but he's not done a whole lot of anything. And, Who else? Who am I missing here?
Autry. Autry, and then
I've named 3 guys.
Yeah, there's another one. The other guy that's next to Autry in the middle there.
Oh, Tier Tart.
Tier
That's what I'm thinking of.
Tier
Tier Tart.
Yeah.
I'm totally spaced out. Tier Tart has had a relatively quiet couple games.
Yes.
So in the middle, Tier Tart could also be somebody that keys in on Cordell Volson, makes his life hell. He's been pretty fantastic. All of that being said, and Arden Key. Arden Key had a very fantastic week 1, and then since then has been pretty quiet. He actually said, Arden, in the locker room this week, talked about how Joe Burrow is the best he thinks that the Titans have seen so far at getting the ball out quickly. And he feels like they have to make sure they get their hands up to knock the ball down at the offensive line because they may truly not have time to get home. 1.5, 2 seconds to get home. It's just you're not gonna get after the quarterback that way if they're getting it out that quickly. But the good news is you're not getting it downfield. You don't have these. There are no long developing plays. I saw it. I wish I'd written it down. On Monday Night Football, they threw up a stat mid-game about how the Bengals had hit on like 3 of their 15 or 16 attempts downfield, and they had a very low mid to long developing play rate. And so that's something that I don't expect to change with this Titans team because, again, Joe Burrow just does not have the ability to buy time, and they do not want him getting dirty back there. Do we want to talk more about the general offensive line versus defensive line battle, or can we dive into – I have a couple of guys in particular, 3 guys highlighted that I want to dive into as needing a big bounce back, and I want to talk about whether we think that they can or not.
Yeah, I think the last point on that is to Arden's point. Like, this Bengals team so far has seen a very different look from past seasons. This Bengals team is kind of moved in a direction, whether it was planned or not, because of Joe Burrow's injury, that we're not seeing like Jamar Chase absolutely feast downfield like he has in the past. Like he's not this explosive guy because they have to get the ball out really, really quickly. And so that's what they've been doing. They have really just dumped it off to Jamar Chase and like Tyler Boyd and a lot of these guys to have him make plays yards after the catch.
And I'm curious to see how they use Chase because I was reminded earlier today. I was surprised that I went this long in the week without realizing this. Last year, a big talking point going into the Bengals-Titans game was that Jamar Chase was not going to play, that Joe Mixon was not going to play. It was going to need to be a T. Higgins step-up-for-us game. It was going to need to be a Samaje Perine step-up-for-us game. To their credit, both of those guys went off. They were fantastic. As you mentioned earlier in the year, Samaje Perine maybe has been the most successful running back the Titans have faced in the past, 17 consecutive games. He's not there, but Joe Mixon's back. Jamar Chase is back. They've been fine. I mean, Joe Mixon had I think his best game of the year last week. Jamar Chase has been limited, but I want to say
he did catch 11 balls. So he did,
but his effectiveness has been limited based on what we expect, simply because they're not able to let him develop. His downfield threat ability has been limited by the situation.
and I do question back to that point where they are just not finding success down the field. I have to maybe point out that it could also be because T. Higgins currently has the butteriest hands of all time right now. I mean, he's had at least 8 targets in all 3 games, and he has a 36% catch rate right now with that. So it's not like they're not trying to throw the ball downfield. It's just they are. Just T. Higgins can't catch the ball right now, and so that is something I'm also with these wide receivers I'm looking to see possibly change this week.
All right, 3 guys that I want to dive into specifically this week, what we need to see from them. But before we get into that, if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel at Broadway Sports Media on YouTube, we would love for you to subscribe. We see the metrics. There's a lot of you that watch and you aren't subscribed. I know that that's an accident on your part. We know you don't mean it. Just go hit that subscribe button. It is, in fact, free for you, which is the awesome part, and it helps us out tremendously. So do us a personal favor. Subscribe at Broadway Sports Media on YouTube. We're trying to get that subscriber count up if you enjoy the show. Even if you just listen to the podcast version, you're never even on YouTube. Just do us a favor. Again, it's free. It takes you 10 seconds. Go open your YouTube app, search Broadway Sports Media, hit subscribe. Appreciate you for doing that. The 3 guys that need a big week this week. And it's 2 guys from the groups we just talked about, and then 1 in the receiving core. And I'll give you 3 guesses as to who that might be, and 2 of them don't count. Let's start with the guy who has been the worst player on the starting lineup for the Titans, and we've talked about relentlessly, but I want to talk about just once more briefly. Andre Dillard, Titans left tackle. I before we dive into the specifics on him, because he is going to play in this game, he's, in my opinion, going to be the Titans starting left tackle for the foreseeable future. I have no faith in them making a move, and certainly not anytime soon. That being said, I, and you to an extent, this show has been a big proponent of giving Peter Skoronski a chance on the outside at the tackle position in the NFL since April, since we were in Indianapolis talking about this at a table set up just like this with our buddy Nick Suss from the Tennessean. We had an entire episode we called The Great Tackle Debate, where we discussed Paris Johnson Jr. and Peter Skoronski as potential NFL tackles. I think that he deserves a shot. I think that they need, in my opinion, he is the best tackle prospect, the best tackle option they have on this team right now, left tackle option. He plays with much better strength and technique than Andre Dillard has. He has much better anchor than Andre Dillard has. He's not had the arms or the reach that Andre Dillard has, but frankly, the arms and his reach for Dillard has not been doing anything for him right now. I have more faith when and this is all asterisk, like when he gets back and healthy, because right now our we understand he had a ruptured appendix, emergency situation. He's going into, this will be the third consecutive game he's missed this week. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, 3. Yes, he played week 1. This will be his third missed game. Maybe he's back for the 4th. Based on what I'm hearing and seeing, just the vibe, I'm kind of thinking that maybe he comes back for week 6. And if not in London, maybe they give him
after the bye.
Like, I think that after the bye may be a real possibility. There's a large range of outcomes for a ruptured did I say Achilles earlier?
No, I think you said
I thought, yeah. Okay.
It would have sounded weird.
It would have sounded weird. A ruptured appendix. We've seen guys come back within a week. We've seen guys take a month and a half off. With offensive linemen, I want to say it's probably more difficult, more detrimental to getting back because of the weight factor. These offensive linemen, how often do you see a guy retire and then they balloon down and you're like, oh, that's the size that this person is supposed to, like, that's the way that God intended them to look. And, they've just been nutritionisting their way to being 315 pounds in the NFL. Skoronski's a big fella, do not get me wrong. But right now, when we saw him in the locker room this week, the brain trust of me and Nick Suss and Sam Phelan, our carnival barker. You've ever been to a carnival and they're like, ma'am, step on, I can guess within 5 pounds of your weight. Step on this. Our best guess playing carnival barker was that he's probably at about 295-ish, somewhere between 290, 300. He was listed before the season at 313, if I'm not mistaken. So we think he says himself he's lost weight. I'm guessing he's probably lost 20 appendix. 20. yeah. But getting that weight back has got to be difficult. In addition to just getting back, you lose some conditioning. You're stagnant for a couple of weeks. You got to get back up. You've only played one NFL game. A lot of people say you got to play yourself into shape sometimes in the NFL. He's not had that opportunity. So all of those factors come together to me to say, don't be surprised if he's not back before after the bye and in week 8. So back to Dillard. Now that I've made it clear once again, I feel like every show I have to put out there, they should try Skoronski at left tackle. They can't right now, but when he comes back, I'm going to be arguing every week that they should. With Dillard, who they're going to rock and roll with right now, and I don't think they're going to put Radens out there. Maybe if you have a 3-sack half from you come out and Dillard allows 3 sacks against the Bengals by halftime.
Which I think is
Bengals,
possible.
It is on. It's on the table.
And with Dillard,
Trey Hendrickson, it is on the table.
With Dillard, it doesn't seem like it's up and down. It really, the first drive matters the most for him. He is such a player that is, it's so pivotal for him to get off on a good foot in the games, because for whatever reason, it's just hard for him to rebound,
Well, to that point, and I have this written down in my notes about Dillard. I talked to you earlier this week that I was reminded about a conversation that I and friend of the show, Teron Davenport over at ESPN had early on. I went and found the text conversation. It was August 5th. We were talking about this during the beginning portions of training camp. Andre Dillard has all of the talent to be fine. He's lacking in play strength, like I said. He's got some flexibility issues when he's trying to operate downfield as a run blocker or trying to deal with a particularly bendy pass rusher. But he's an above-average athlete. He's got really light feet. There's a reason why he was a first-round prospect in the NFL draft. The big issue with him, according to what Teron and I came to a conclusion on, just kind of reading the tea leaves, talking to him a number of times. From what I've heard, I heard Greg Cosell of NFL Films parrot this week. I've heard a number of coaches and former scouts talk about this. This is hi, how are you? We are live here at BOOMBOZZ. He's somebody that lacks some mental competitiveness. And I kind of hesitate to say that because I don't know the guy like a coach would know him. I don't know the guy like a friend would know him. So I'm not trying to besmirch him in any way. But from what I've heard from a number of sources and a number of people that know this league better than me, know this game better than me, know him better than me, it sounds like he's just not the most mentally tough guy, which, first of all, does not fit on a Mike Vrabel team. But also, when you're playing the tackle position, mental toughness is so important because it's such an up and down position. You can come out and in the first series, it's a 3 and out on your shoulders in particular because you allowed a massive third down sack. It's all your fault. You've got to bounce back from that. You've got to have the mental toughness to put that behind you. It's kind of like the best golfers will tell you, you got to play hole to hole. You have a terrible hole, you've got to forget about it. You have a great hole, you've got to forget about it. With the tackle, of all the line positions on either side of the ball, you can swing a game more than anybody else. And so you've got to have a goldfish memory, and he just doesn't seem to have that. He's such a streaky player. The way that he approaches the game, his body language, his mentality, after we talked to him after good practices in training camp. We talked to him after bad practices in training camp, juxtaposing those two attitudes from him. He just doesn't seem between the ears to be a very strong mental player. That's a huge issue for this team. And for him, because he's off to such a bad start, one would think it's difficult for him to come back and climb out of that hole. And we've not seen anything from him really through 3 games to indicate he has that fight, that dog to come back. So I don't think it's going to be great. I think Trey Hendrickson, the pass rusher for the Bengals, who, like you mentioned earlier, does not get the name recognition, does not get the play that he deserves. I think a big part of that is because I was listening to some Bengals media this week. He's not a very good run defender. Like people, I saw one person in Bengals media, I think it's Joe Goodberry, talk about how they sometimes refer to him as blackout Trey. Like he just goes blackout mode, see ball, hit ball, run, get after the quarterback. And the Bengals don't really care because he's such a good pass rusher, like fine, whatever. But teams historically have had some success running at him. And because of that, I think that you might see some more of the running game trying to be established by the Titans team this week. But yeah, I think Dillard's going to struggle against him as a pass rusher. I don't know. Ultimately, these other 2 guys we're going to talk about, I have things to tell you to be like, here's reason for hope. Here's reason to believe that they can bounce back. With Dillard, my reasoning behind him is I have reason to think he might not be able to bounce back. I'd be happy for him to prove me wrong, for him to have a good game. Watching the coaches this week at the Titans facility during practice, they're coaching him up hard. I just don't know if it's going to pay dividends in any way.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree, and I don't think we will know. I think this, like you said, this is the kind of current situation that the Titans are in. That I don't think they move past him right now. Like
don't have what's the options? We've discussed this. There's not really great options.
But like you said, if this continues, just to bring it full circle, like with MPF back and maybe with Skoronski coming back after the bye, if that is how long it takes him, like I think maybe then you start to see maybe a change.
Agreed. Let's talk about Christian Fulton now. I was listening to our buddy James Foster, friend of the show, No Flags Film, A to Z Film Room on YouTube. He did a review through 3 weeks of the Titans team, individual players, talking about guys that have been really good, really bad on YouTube. I recommend you go check it out. But he was talking about Christian Fulton, and something I texted him about this, as I'm like, this made me chuckle. He said at one point, talking about Christian Fulton, that you have to go back to the Parrish Cox, Bleedy Ray Wilson days to find a 2-game stretch worse than this out of a Titans cornerback. If you're familiar with who I'm talking about as a Titans fan, you know what kind of indictment that is. Christian Fulton has been plain horrible, and I'm not here to beat the dead horse. We've talked about the numbers. He's been really bad. They've objectively been outlier performances for him. As frustrating as he has been for the Titans and Titans fans through 3 or 4 seasons now with the Titans, he's been the best corner when he's healthy and on the field. Up until this season, that's been the opposite of the case. So I don't think it's unreasonable to expect some regression to the mean. Is it unreasonable maybe at this point to expect him to be a net positive player? Maybe he's just cooked. I think there's no way he gets – combining the fact that he's been so bad to start the year with the fact that he's guaranteed to miss at least 3 or 4 games of the year with soft tissue injuries, he's not getting another contract with the team. Maybe it's like a prove it deal, 1 year thing where you can't find a massive contract on the market. But in this final year, I think that he will regress to the mean. I think that he will get better because he almost has to. Do you think that's crazy for me to expect him to be better? Again, relative word. Better does not mean good. It just means not an active detriment.
Liability.
Yeah, active liability.
Yeah. And I did watch that video as well. It was a good video. I recommend highly. James, what he's doing over there.
James knows what he's talking about.
He knows what he's talking about. Yeah, because that's just like you said, this is not the normal Christian Fulton. Like, in the play right now, he's not exactly getting super targeted. Like they're not really picking on him
yet.
But when he does get targeted,
right.
that's the problem. So like they other teams are still like scheming him as like,
it's more pivotal misses than it is consistent.
Yes.
It's you're right that it's less Trey Avery getting targeted 15 times against the Chargers and more, you're getting targeted 2 or 3 times a game, but it's for 35 and 47 yards and a touchdown, and it's a disaster. And it's like they need it. This is what your cornerback won for. This is what you're supposed to be getting paid cornerback one money for, is to be that guy in this moment against one of the better receivers on the team. And I can't name a single time he has been there to make a play.
Yes.
He's sometimes not even in the frame of the television. Any more thoughts on Fulton before we move on?
I was just gonna say, if there is one day or one game where he would be able to bounce back, it's got to be this week, with probably his biggest challenge that he's faced so far in this wide receiver core.
Mm-hmm.
And to that point, like you were saying, if the mean of Christian Fulton maybe regresses to more where, okay, they are starting to pick on him a little bit. He is losing some of these battles, but he eliminates the big play ability. I think that's a good start for him.
And this just dawned on me now that you're saying that. Maybe this is a good get-right spot for him in the sense that this year, like we said, it's been the big play, downfield shot, chunk plays where he has given up a lot and cost the team dearly. Because the Bengals' pass protection has not been very great, and because Joe Burrow is getting the ball out incredibly quickly with 2 yards average downfield yardage per attempt this season, maybe this is the game where he's not being asked to cover a guy for a long time downfield. He can play more aggressive, play more loose, play more in the face, maybe play more press man in this game. And it's a get-right spot for him in the sense that it's maybe it's a more difficult assignment based on the players he's guarding, but it's an easier assignment in the sense that he's being asked to cover for 2.5 seconds on short in-breaking routes, not long developing plays downfield. It wouldn't shock me if maybe that's what you see from this game. And it's like we're talking on Sunday, even win or lose. Talking about like, great, at least Christian Fulton had a better game. He allowed two catches on 6 attempts for 27 yards and no touchdowns. Like maybe we're seeing Christian Fulton figure it out. Will that be maybe a little bit misleading if that's the case and the numbers for downfield passing and time to throw aren't changed for the Bengals? Yes, I would argue that it will be because we didn't see him address his actual issue this season. But I think that could be a get right spot and is a good point there. Treylon Burks is the last guy I want to talk about before we get to the news. Really disappointing start based on what we were expecting from him coming into this year. A ton of talk from us and from everybody in the media going into the season. Breakout season for Treylon Burks and for Chigakonkwo, but to a lesser extent, he's also not been great. But again, Treylon Burks is the X factor here that you need to be great. I also think that Treylon has been actively worse than Chig has. Chig in a couple of spots has, made some concentration drops and not been as consistent as he should be in blocking. With Treylon, he's got the one big catch in the Chargers game, and then beyond that, you can name more big drops from him than you can even intermediate successes. So with Burks, I was thinking today, what has he proven to us as a receiver this year? Because if you're a wide receiver one, you're not a one-trick pony, right? You're not a Jalen Hyatt. Not to hit Jalen Hyatt with strays, but like that's the first one that comes to mind for any of our Tennessee fans. You're somebody that is able to be a yak monster and a contested catch winner, or you're an elite route runner and a separator. With Burks, of these 5 categories, he's really only proven one thing, and is that he can be a vertical threat. And that's really based on that one catch. But I'd say that one big catch is proof enough to me. He's capable of doing that. based on actual plays from him this season on the field on Sundays during a regulation game and not in practices, he has not proven to be a great separator. In fact, he's had pretty poor separation numbers based on what we expect from him. Although you could argue he's a big body receiver. It's not really supposed to be his game. As a prospect, that wasn't really his game. Okay, fine. Doesn't have to be a big separator. How about as an elite route runner? Not really, which wasn't really his game coming out of college. Kind of that DK Metcalf mold of not a great route runner, coming out really raw in that respect. Just in year 2, he's missed a lot of practice and game reps due to injury. Maybe that stunted his growth. But still, not an elite separator, not an elite route runner. Okay, well, what about what he was built as? Well, he was built as a yak monster. That's been probably the most disappointing element in his game that we've not seen this year from him. Yards after catch, man, are supposed to be his bag. That's supposed to be money for Treylon Burks. Huge, 6'3", 225, big-bodied guy, capable of breaking tackles. And it seems like at times this year he's been playing with his shoestrings tied. That he is, at the first mention of contact, he's going down. Now, I remember a lot last year, early in the season, we're like, man, this must be a yak guy. What's going on? He's not running through guys. And then by the back half of the year, in that Bengals game, in that Green Bay game, in that Philadelphia game before his concussion, he started to show, okay, maybe it was just a mental thing. He's playing stronger. He's playing more confident. We're seeing him break some tackles. This season, he's off to a start like he had last year. We were saying, what's going on? This guy runs into one cornerback who is half his size, and he's brought down with ease. So he's not been a yak monster. He's not been an elite route runner. He's not been a good separator. Okay, the last category, a contested catch winner. He's a big fella. He's got a great vertical. He's athletic. He's big enough to be able to box guys out, especially when he sits down on a route or when he's playing an intermediate route, in breaking route. Where is that? Not seen it at all. In fact, in contested catch situations, he has been really, really poor, an active negative for this team. You think back to last game, Tannehill needles a pass in between 4 defenders across the middle of the field. I highlighted it rather on my Twitter account this week. What's going on there? Got to make catch, hits him in both hands, drops it. Maybe would have been 7 points if he'd hung on to it, and it was going to be a classic AJ Brown run and catch in breaking route. It's that kind of thing where you've got it's contested catches at the catch point when he's not got separation. We've not seen him make any of those this year. You're seeing him drop balls that he's not contested on more often than you're seeing him catch balls that he is contested on. That's not good. So proven to be a downfield vertical threat. He's capable of doing that. But he's not proven to be a good separator. He's not proven to be an elite route runner. He's not proven to be a yak monster, and he's not proven to be a contested catch winner. That is incredibly concerning. Now, unlike Andre Dillard, there's reason to have some belief in him in the sense that he has shown us flashes, like I mentioned last year, that Bengals game, that Green Bay game, that Philadelphia game. He's shown that ability to use his speed, strength, and size combination to his advantage and be the guy that we think on paper and in practice that he can be. It's just so far this year he hasn't. This could be a big wake-up game for him in the sense that, like we mentioned earlier in the show, the Bengals pass defense, I'd say pretty average. They are allowing a lot of deep shots. Their average air yards per completion allowed, league high, 10 yards per completion. Maybe this is his get-right game. What are you expecting from Burks?
I mean, he has had maybe his second best game. I think Green Bay is his best game that he's played. Definitely, I think the second best game that he has played in his career came against the Bengals. Obviously didn't score a touchdown the way you wanted him to score a touchdown
Sure.
in that game. But he was finding success against what was a completely different Bengals secondary last season. So that will also be a big factor. They got a lot younger, maybe not as like high level talent as like a Jesse Bates was for them. But I mean, Dax Hill is playing really good right now. They have a lot of good young guys. Taylor Britt is also playing really, really good right now.
Right.
So I think this is the week for him. I think that if there is a week where you might see this passing game start to click, it probably has to come against this Bengals team who probably can afford to give up some of those opportunities. And I think that's where Burks needs to show up. And as I watched the Cleveland game, just kind of encapsulating everything you said, like he just has lacked that. I don't want to this is not a real trait, but he just lacks the alpha kind of.
No, sure. The it is not there.
The it factor for him is not there. And until he starts making those kind of catches, I can't really trust him right now.
Right, it's those I'm him moments
Yes.
where you, like in the Chargers game, you see him make that catch. He's fired up. It's like, oh, there he is. There's that guy. You think about that game icing catch down the left sideline going up against which I forget which Green Bay defender. Going up
Jair
Alexander. Yeah, okay. Going up against Jair Alexander in that Green Bay game. Contested catch that ices the game. Gives him the too small. Like, it's those moments that the catch where he gets concussed, gets absolutely laid out in that Philadelphia game for a touchdown, but hangs onto the ball and makes the catch anyways in traffic. It's those moments that we're lacking from him. They don't have to be that big. They can just be a big contested catch on a third down across the middle of the field, and he gets fired. Like that. It's that kind of alpha we've seen it once all year long through 3 games. We need to see it more. All right, I'm ready to move on to the news, but JT, because it is rivalry week, because you are a resident Bengals fan, I'm going to give you one chance here. Anything in particular you'd like to say on behalf of your Bengals? Anything you're looking forward to seeing from your Bengals that you want to mention before we move on to the news?
I mean, I think we covered a lot of it. I think the biggest thing is kind of like you said, that like we just touched on, that secondary. How are they going to play against this which I think is probably one of the better wide receiver cores that they've played this season. They played the Rams, which have some emerging stars in Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell.
The best wide receiver in the league.
Yeah. And then they've also played the Ravens, who have a developing star, but no real veteran. Like, I guess you could say they've played against Amari Cooper, but no real veteran like a DeAndre Hopkins.
Yep.
And to your point, circling all the way back, you talked about how the Titans have kind of gone away with attacking the middle of the field. And I think that's where the Titans can win this game, is by having a standout DeAndre Hopkins performance where you do attack that middle of the field and find success.
All right, let's move on to the news with producer JT. We start with the injury report as always. JT, what do we got?
Yeah, so let's talk about the guys who did not practice today on Thursday, starting with linebacker Luke Gifford, who is dealing with a hamstring injury. Defensive back Elijah Molden also dealing with a hamstring injury. And then Peter Skoronski also not practicing still with an abdomen as it is labeled. And then some other guys who did not practice. Treylon Burks did not practice after practicing limitedly in Wednesdays. He's dealing with a knee injury. He had a big wrap. A lot of people are calling it a serious wrap today, but it was very noticeable today that he had that on. And then Derrick Henry also not practicing today for rest. Which of those guys are you most concerned with not being able to go this week?
So let's go through all of them. Skoronski, of course, nothing to mention there. He's going to be out for the foreseeable future. Molden is concerning to me. It's first of all, I got to preface this. Another week, another Titans Thursday injury report. The Friday report is what tells the tale. Thursdays are the day that they give the most guys rest. The most guys get off. Derrick Henry practicing yesterday. He's off today for rest and still nursing a little bit with that toe. Yesterday, DeAndre Hopkins practices full with that nagging ankle today. Limited with that ankle, which to me I don't believe he tweaked it. That reads to me as they're load managing it. The reporters that were on site today, which I was not a part of, they said that he was not out there early on during position drills. So because he's limited, it sounds like he came out for the actual practice, the install of that. And I think you're going to see a lot of that this year. Derrick Henry, I mentioned rest, not a big deal. Who else am I missing
Burks
here? Burks. Yeah. Sorry. Burks with that knee. Like Friday's going to tell the tale. I think that he's going to push to play if he can play. If that knee was such a big deal that it was really concerning to them that he wasn't going to be able to play, I don't think they would have let him practice on it yesterday. Maybe it's the case that he was in the position drills when we saw him yesterday, and then because he was listed as limited, that was because when we went inside and it went to private practice, he went inside as well because he was told or decided it was just, I can't. Never mind. We thought we could do it today. We can't. I don't know the extent of that. Today feels like it's probably a rest day for him in that knee. We'll see tomorrow if he's limited or practicing in full, then that'll tell the tale. It wouldn't shock me if he goes into this week with a questionable designation, but at this point, I feel like he's going to play in this game. I'm not that concerned about it.
Yeah, then we can talk about some other guys here who were limited today. Like you said, DeAndre Hopkins limited. Danico Autry also limited. And then who else? T.R. Tart is also limited this week.
Tart's been limited all year. Not really concerned about that. Hopkins, not concerned. Autry with that groin I believe he was in the same boat last week, and then he played. So nothing really. The guys that most concern me here are Molden with the hamstring, not practicing through two games or two practices rather.
Yes.
He's the one that has the most potentially out possibility here for me.
And someone, Kenneth brings up asking, is it the same knee that he suffered the injury, at least for Burks? Is it the same knee or a different one? Do you know?
I don't know for a fact. Thinking in my head about it, seeing it yesterday in person, I want to say that it was, but I'm not sure. Now, whether it is the same knee or not, I couldn't tell you for sure whether or not it's still that LCL issue or something new. I'd guess it's probably just a flare-up of that same thing. I'll get confirmation on that and tweet about it, Kenneth. That's a good question. But I feel like if it was a different knee, we would have heard from folks that were there today talking about how it was a different knee.
Yeah, and then we can move on to the Cincinnati Bengals side, which Charlie Jones, who has kind of been a pleasant surprise for the Bengals so far this season, has not practiced all week. Tight end Irv Smith also not practicing yet this week with a hamstring, although their practice squad elevation, I don't know his first name, but Hudson is his last name, was actually very, very productive in his first game there. And then Joe Burrow.
The Doc Hudson?
I wish. Sure. I wish. And then Joe Burrow fully participating today without a sleeve on his calf. So looks like he becomes more and more.
His strength grows
every single day.
Who was the Bengals receiver last year that low key cooked the team? Was like a really low on the depth chart. You know what I'm talking about?
Trent Taylor. Or Trenton Irwin.
No, Trenton Irwin. Irwin, big white guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Trenton Irwin is the guy who came to mind when I watched Charlie Jones earlier this season. Thinking about like Charlie Jones, maybe this year's Trenton Irwin against the Titans. And him not being in there, like, I don't think it's a huge deal because they have three much better receivers than him. But part of me is like, maybe Trey Avery gets some reprieve here and Charlie Jones does not eat his lunch. And with Burrow, the calf, I'll be very interested, full participant. Is that him just standing around all day and truly not moving? You can participate if you're just going to pocket passer all day long. I'm not, certainly I don't think either of us thinks that he's magically going to be much better. I think this is the kind of thing where for the next month, he's still nursing it and maybe not look. If he's lucky, he suffers no setbacks and is back to his full strength in 4 or 5 weeks. So I don't think it's that big a deal that he's practicing full. No reason to believe that he's going to suddenly be this mobile savant like DeAndre Hopkins, Deshaun Watson was last week. He's still going to be a statue back there.
Yeah, we can move on now to talking about someone who really has gone unnoticed, probably for the better, though, this season.
Well, he got a lot of play last week. Plenty of practice
on that. He did get a lot of practice, but that is the Titans punter, Ryan Stonehouse, who continues to be a stud this season. And the proof is in the pudding by his statistics. His 74-yard punt in week 3 tied for a career long and is the longest in the league this season. Since the beginning of 2022, he leads the league in 70-plus yard punts with 4 of them and also leads the league in 60-plus yard punts in that period with 25 of those. Continues to be a hidden gem from his draft class. And is continuing to produce for the Titans.
I mean, just like every franchise has a position where they're just never in doubt. Titans and punters, never in doubt. Dude's a stud. I hope that this year he continues to play great and get the recognition when award season comes around that he deserves.
Yeah, we can move on now to another quick little stat here. The Titans are on a league best 8-game win streak.
Here's your biggest vibes reason to believe that this Titans team is going to turn it around here.
They are 10-2 overall in the past 3 seasons with a winning percentage of .833. So Mike Vrabel is very good in October.
Well, I saw our buddy Braden Gall on a football show earlier today trying to start Mike Tober. If Mike continues to win this October, 4 seasons in a row, it's just an October machine. Maybe Mike Tober needs to become a thing. You got Mike Tober, you got D. Henber, you got Henuary. I knew there was a January one. Henuary. We are collecting months and memes for this Titans team, but there's, I think a lot of Titans fans right now are expecting Mike Vrabel to go like 1-3 in October. Actually the bye's in there, so 1-2, 0-3. He's going to need to win some of these games. Yes. Let's put the number. If he wins 2 of 3 in October, then we'll rock and roll with Mike Tober.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Okay.
Moving on to the other guy on the special teams here, in Nick Folk, who has the longest active field goal streak in
another
the league.
Position the Titans just never in doubt. Field goal kicker.
Having made his last 8 attempts as a Patriot and his first 8 attempts as a Titan, continues to have the best start to a season for a Titan since 2015 with Ryan Suckup. So continues to be automatic for him.
It's hilarious to me that they send this out in the media this week, because I'm pretty confident that this is going to be a classic media jinx of him as kicker.
Yes.
The fact that we all blasted out everybody in the media pool talking about how, he hasn't missed in 16. Okay, well, he's going to have a 33-yard attempt to take a lead for the Titans. Here's my prediction for this week. Okay, Titans offense comes out with fire in their gut, Arizona Cardinals style.
Yes.
They march down the field and have the first week on the season, really, where their opening drive, they have some real momentum. They get down, they get stopped in the red zone. Fine, no big deal. Promising first drive, 34, 35-yard chip shot for Nick Folk, and then the media jinx misses, and then everybody in the stadium just turns white. It's like, here we go. It's gonna be one of those.
We can move on now to talk a little bit more stats here, not sacks. NFL teams have allowed a sack only 6.1% of their touchdown drives this season. In related news, the Titans have allowed a sack on 36% of their drives.
I ran the numbers, checks out. Turns out the Titans have been sacked a lot and have scored very few touchdowns. Yes. So that checks out.
It's the second highest rate in the league currently. So something that they will try to change this week. And then finally, Uncle Jimmy back with his wardrobe check for
Rich's report. What we got?
The Titans will be decked out in all navy blue jerseys, breeches, and socks in Sunday's game versus the Bengals.
A classic look, a refined look. I like it. All right, that is JT with the news, and that brings us to our final segment of the day, the Best Bet Gauntlet. JT, it has been for the show, very good year, and for you in particular, a very good year. Now,
Indeed.
As somebody that is responsible and takes ownership of their actions, it's certainly not a disaster. I'm one game under 500. I'm what am I sitting at? 8-7, 7-8? No, 7-8, I believe.
Yes.
7-8 through 3 weeks.
19-11 for the show.
19-11 on the show. You're hard carrying. I appreciate that. I did have to carry pretty much all last year. So I appreciate, all good things must come to an end.
Yes.
And I'm not somebody that's going to dwell on the past and point to my past Super Bowl rings. So I appreciate you doing that. I am glad ultimately that the show is doing well. That is the number one thing for us. 19-11, north of 60%, a ridiculous number that's probably going to regress to the mean, but we're going to try like hell to not let it regress to the mean. And this week's board, I feel really good about. I'm ready to get back on my horse. You're on a heater. You are 9-1 in your last 10 picks.
Yes.
So we're looking to keep you on that heater, and I'm looking to join you. Let's get into this week's picks. And as I am the week 3 loser, 2 weeks in a row, I get the first pick. I'm going with this week, one of my favorite, actually not one of, it's the first pick. So it is my favorite.
Yes.
My favorite bet of the week. Well, I say that because we're going head to head on a game that I'm guessing. The cat's out of the bag. Okay. It's the rivalry week. I'm taking the Titans. He's taking the Bengals. We'll talk about that at the end. So it's really 4 picks from each of us. I love the Titans pick, and I'm going to talk to you about why that is later.
Dog, who's gutsy enough? Both of us.
Sure. But my second favorite pick is this Buffalo Bills team. How do you not fade a team that just scored 70 points in week 3?
Good question.
Okay. Ask Cowboys fans how easy it is to get caught up drinking the Kool-Aid on your team in September and for all of it to come crashing down. Now, I don't think they're going to have a Cowboys-esque performance in week 4 against Buffalo, but there is a ton of signal pointing to why you have to take this Buffalo team. 2 has been pressured a league low 8 times this season. Just 8 pressures on the year through 3 games, 0 sacks allowed. He's been kept completely clean. This is the first great pass rush that he's playing. He has not faced very much in terms of pressure. His offensive line, credit to them, they've done a good job, but in terms of the assignment they've been given to keep Tua clean, it's been pretty lackluster. This is going to be a big step up in class. I trust Sean McDermott, head coach of the Bills, to trust him against Tua. I think that the divisional familiarity comes into play here. I looked this up. Tua has a 59 quarterback ranking against the Bills, career long, and this line has not moved. That's another thing that is interesting to me. It's been Buffalo -2.5 all week long. Part of me thought that it would come, Miami money would come in. The pros in Vegas would start to give this more of a pick'em line. It's not. It's still Buffalo as almost a field goal favorite. I kind of think that it would have moved if Vegas and the pros felt that Miami was truly this cannot be stopped juggernaut team. Some other numbers for you. Teams that manage 6+ yards per play, averaging 6 or more yards per play through 3 games, are 35, 56, and 1, which is 38% in their fourth game historically. It's time to come back down to earth for this Miami offense. And Miami is just, you go back and you look at what they've done this year. Yes, the offense has been fantastic, but they've dominated two bad defenses in Denver and LA. Okay, Sam Howell hung 32 points on the Denver defense. Okay, last week against this Bills defense, Sam Howell hung 0 points. So that right there is a microcosm example of how much of a difference this is going to be. The final stat, maybe the most important, a fantastic sample size of 1. Teams that have scored 70 points or more in a game in NFL history are 0-1 against the spread in the following week, which is a very, very good signal, very good sample size, very effective stat. So all day long, I'm betting Buffalo minus 2.5. I love this. You get to be fearless to bet against this juggernaut Miami offense, but I'm doing it.
Yeah, and then Shrike here in the comments says, are you saying that he should start Howell over Tua this week in fantasy football? Yes, that's exactly what we're saying.
Yes. Start Howell and prosper.
Yeah.
Don't. So
my first pick in this week's Best Bet Gauntlet Week 4 edition, I'm going with Tampa Bay, plus 3.5.
I'm mad you took this because I like this bet.
New Orleans. Let's talk about, first of all, why this probably isn't a good pick, and then I'll tell you why it is a good pick. The Bucks, obviously, kind of a polarizing team this year. They
sure.
are kind of
they're a big pros team. Pros team.
Through expectations. But the Bucks had the longest against the spread road losing streak in the NFL entering the season, which was 6 games in a row. And then they covered and won on the road in Minnesota in week 1. Tampa is 6-12 against the spread on the road since the start of 2021. It's the second worst mark in the NFL, just ahead of the Bears. However, this is not something that's super scaring me this week because obviously Jameis Winston is looking to get the start over Derek Carr since he's injured. And it's been tough for Jameis Winston as a starter and being the favorite. Winston has been a tough bet as an underdog. He's been 8-19-1 as the favorite, so against the spread. So I'm looking to fade Jameis Winston and this team. Also, it is just the NFC South matchup of NFC South matchups that always just feels like it ends in the field goal. So with getting that hook, I really do like the plus 3.5.
It's an auto bet simply because it's a divisional matchup. You're getting the hook with the dog. You take the dog. That's two teams that are close in a division. You take the dog. Some more numbers just to support what you're going, because I'm betting this as well, even though you're taking it in the competition. Jameis is 8-19-1 against the spread, all time as a favorite, which is 30%. As a favorite of over a field goal, he's 2-9 ATS. So like this guy is not a front runner. It's a bounce back spot for Tampa Bay. This New Orleans team, every game they played this year has finished within 3 points, win or lose. Everything points to taking this Tampa Bay number at 3.5. For my second pick in the Week 4 Best Bet Gauntlet, give me the Rams plus 1.5 at Indianapolis. I think the Rams win this game outright. First of all, it's a good zig while the public zags spot. LA coming off of a primetime loss. Typically, that means that team's going to be a little bit undervalued by the market. Indy, a big upset win against the Rams. I think that this is a good bounce back spot for the Rams. Come down to earth moment for the Colts. This is the biggest individual luck rankings differential of the week, according to the Action Network's luck rankings, which tracks stuff like dropped passes, turnover luck, just bounces that go your way, things that are really luck based in a game, and that following that metric where the luck rankings are significantly different in a game is, I think it's like 65% all time over 3 or 4 years. So it's a winning indicator. One thing that is really interesting to me about these two teams that I think is another great indicator why you should take the Rams in this game. The Rams have outgained opponents in each of their games so far this year by an average of 83 yards per game. The Colts have been outgained in all 3 of their games this year. They are 2-1, but they've been outgained 3 times by an average of 45 yards per game. So I think that this Rams team is going to show that you can't consistently be outgained and win. I think it's a bounce back spot for them. I think they win outright. Give me the Rams plus 1.5 at Indy.
For my second pick, and as Kenneth says in here, Stroud is on a heater. Steelers offense is garbage. Texans, sneaky good bet.
Good pick, Kenneth.
Good pick, because that's exactly where I'm going. I'm
Love
taking Houston this week, plus 3. Like he said, Stroud is on a heater. He's one of 2 quarterbacks still in the league to not have thrown an interception this season.
Dare I say he's the better quarterback in this matchup?
He is right now
I think
the better
he is.
Quarterback. And with this, there are a couple trends that I do like. Tomlin Mike Tomlin, that being, hasn't had success on a road trip recently. Week 4 in Houston is their second straight road game that they've had. Since 2018, the Steelers are 3-7 against the spread on the second or later leg of a road trip.
Interesting.
The only coaches that are worse are Bill O'Brien, Kevin Stefanski, and Doug Marrone. Throwback there. But yeah, like he said, I think this team is starting to play a lot better. That offensive line, despite not really having a lot of their starters, really hasn't faltered that much. CJ Stroud looks confident, even though
pressure or no pressure, it's not really matter.
Yeah, despite the pressure that he's getting, he's looked really good. And getting them at the underdog +3, home dogs, love it. I'm taking them.
It's a classic Tomlin loss spot as well. As much as Tomlin wins and is a great betting tale, just in general, he's a favorite on the road. Just won twice. In games that he probably should have lost. He's got the Ravens, a divisional foe, coming up next week. Another number for you, Tomlin as a road favorite is 15-25-1, which is 40% ATS in the Mike Tomlin era. So I love that bet. I love Houston +3. For my third bet in the best bet gauntlet, week 4, give me Jacksonville in their home away from home, the London game, -3 versus Atlanta. A couple of reasons why I love this Jacksonville team here. They were outgained they outgained Houston last week despite losing. So that was kind of a fluky, misleading final score. They just could not cash in with points, which is a problem for sure. But I think that there's going to be some regression there. This is a team that looks like they've read their press clippings during the offseason. I think that they bounced back in a big way in this game against an Atlanta team that does a really good job on offense on the ground. Jacksonville is a top 3 team in EPA and success rate against the rush so far this year. So I think that they're going to take away that running game of Atlanta to an extent that they're forced to pass the ball. And Desmond Ridder has been tremendously disappointing to me. I had some faith in him going into the year. I feel foolish for having that faith. He looks like he's not a dude. It looks like he's not real. Frankly, I don't know what to expect from him. It looks like Arthur Smith has no faith in him. I think that Jacksonville wins this game outright by a touchdown.
Yeah, I like that pick, especially where the Jacksonville Jaguars this week are playing home away from home.
That's right.
And especially it's the Toy Story animation game this week. So how can you not have a favorite on that
I
one?
forget what the record is in London, but it's very good. I think they have the best winning record in London of all the teams that have played there.
Yeah, so moving on now with my third pick here of the best bet gauntlet. I'm taking Baltimore +3 as a underdog against Cleveland. Once again,
I think we bet Baltimore every week, like bet on the Baltimore game every week.
I think so, but there's good reason to do it because they have been underdogs in a lot of these games, and Lamar Jackson as an underdog hits against the spread 84.6% of the time. It is the highest in the last 20 years for a quarterback with at least 10 starts as an underdog.
My goodness, you're right. 11-2 ATS as a dog, Lamar Jackson.
The only guy who's done it better, Patrick Mahomes. Like this is a guy who
player.
Keeps this team in games. He's a dynamic playmaker. I like this spot where this Cleveland team is really riding high, but if there's somebody who's going to know how to match up against this Cleveland team, it's Harbaugh and the Ravens. I think it's going to be a close game, and I'll take the points +3.
Well, it's a buy low, buy low, sell high. Thank you. Spot for these two teams, right?
Yes.
Cleveland coming off of a butt whooping at Tennessee, Baltimore getting embarrassed by the Colts. I think that this is the right spot for sure to bet the Ravens. My fourth pick in the week 4 best bet gauntlet. Give me the Green Bay Packers tonight. You only have about 30-ish minutes to bet this game. But give me Green Bay +2.5 versus Detroit tonight on Thursday Night Football. I bet against Detroit a couple of times this year. As much as I love Detroit, so far that everything's pointing to betting against Detroit for me so far. I don't want to do it, but I got to do it. Some of the indicators here. LaFleur as a home dog. 16-4 ATS, 13-7 straight up. So an auto bet right there. Jared Goff outdoors, concerning. He's got a concerning record outdoors in the elements. Not to say that this is going to be December Lambeau out there, but that is concerning to me that he's playing outdoors in the elements up there in Lambeau. Green Bay when was the last time that the Lions were favored in a game with the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau when the Green Bay was starting their quarterback? I bet it's been like 20 years.
I saw this stat was out here. I saw this stat. I think it was on Pat McAfee actually today. So I'll have to go and look at the.
It's been a long time. I'm sure
it's been a very long time.
Yeah, Green Bay getting
but-
some key players back as well. Christian Watson coming back.
Christian Watson and Aaron Jones will be in this game. David Bakhtiari actually went on IR earlier today, so not going to have him.
Wasn't expecting him anyways. So, like having those two guys back is big for the offense. Give me Green Bay to win by a field goal. I think that they're going to win outright, but I think they'll win by probably it'll be close. It's a divisional game. I'll give them win by a field goal, but Green Bay to cover plus 2.5 versus Detroit.
Yeah, with my next pick here before we get into our matchup of the week, I'm taking, and this is one I don't love it, but it's just like I was looking at the board. There was a couple other ones. It's scary.
You got to trust the process.
I do have to. You did tell me to trust the process when I came to you with this one, but I'm taking the Jets plus 9.5. If I can get it to double digits, that's even better.
You're going to get the 10. And by Sunday, the public's going to think it's an auto bet. You're going to get the 10. There's no way. So wait for the 10 is the message here. Wait for the 10.
And here's why. Just one fact that I really do like about this game. Mahomes as a double-digit favorite, if it does, in fact, get there. He's 22-2 straight up. So he wins the games. He wins the games. However, he is not very good at covering 10-13-1 against the spread. This Jets offense is not good with Zach Wilson. However, this Jets defense is still one of the better defenses in the league.
Very good defense.
I'm expecting after the pomp and circumstance of the Taylor Swift game where they absolutely rout the Chicago Bears. I'm expecting them to come back down to earth, despite the report saying Taylor Swift will be there at MetLife this week.
Hilarious that her exposure to football starts with playing the Bears, playing the Jets. It's all downhill from here.
I would agree. I would agree.
It's going to be less.
That's too many points for my blood there.
Two reasons that I like this bet that I had written down in case you didn't take this. I have heard from two different pro bettors, and I'm not in the pro betting space enough to know who this group is, but these pro bettors have said it this week. There's a very smart and respected professional group that is coming in very, very heavily on this Jets position. The
Pentaveret of betting.
Genuinely, these professional groups that come in, they hit like 5 to 7 teams really hard each year, and they win 90% of those bets. When they hit them hard, they know something. These big groups, this big group in particular, is hitting this Jets team big in this spot, and that's usually a signal to bet. Another thing is, this is the most according to Action Network, it's the most public side of the week by a huge margin, betting on this Kansas City team. People are seeing this as an auto bet, free money. They think they're gonna beat the Jets just as badly as they beat the Bears. Maybe they will, but odds are that they won't. How often do you see Vegas take a bath like this? Last I checked, just 16% of the bets were on this Jets side. Meaning if the Jets don't cover, Vegas is going to take a bath. They always manage to make their money, right? How often do you see them just get killed? Not very. So I'm gonna roll with Vegas knows something. This professional group knows something. I'll be betting that along with you. All right, let's get to our last bets here. I'm taking Tennessee plus 2.5. You're taking Cincinnati minus 2.5. Is that the best number you got? Did you get a better number?
I'm currently at 2.5.
Okay, 2.5.
I didn't get it. I didn't get it at the underdog because, of course, it was before. It was on Monday before the lines came out. You know, Kenneth, you just got to keep the faith, man. He's like, JT, what are you doing? Is somebody besides Zach Wilson playing? You got to trust the pros. You got to trust the process right now. 12-3. I'm on a heater. I like my picks this week.
That's right.
You just got to trust the process.
You've built up the equity to take some swings.
I think so.
It's one loss. You're still at 70%. It's not the end of the world. All right, so I'm taking Tennessee plus 2.5, and here's why. JT,
Mike Vrabel as the underdog.
I'm not even going to mention that. We know. I've said it every week. Mike Vrabel is an underdog. Home dog is an auto bet. We know this. He's got a winning record as a home underdog. Okay. Yes. I know you've seen this, and I know it's concerning you. Every pro bettor in the world this week is licking their chops. They smell blood in the water. This is the favorite bet of the week. Favorite home dog of the week of every professional bettor worth their salt out there. Okay. I've been seeing them salivating over this game. Here's some signal for you. Teams who score 3 or less points the previous week, which the Titans scored 3 in Cleveland, those teams are 77, 58, and 4, 57% against the spread the following week. You look at the disparity between tickets and money. The public, 29% of the tickets are on the Titans. Just 29% of the public bettors are on the Titans. 66% of the money, the big money bettors, is on the Titans. It's a plus 37% differential. Typically very, very good signal indicative of betting the home dog. Mike Vrabel, like I said, home dog, auto bet. betting against the public. This is an Action Network systems tracker. This system tells me that betting against the public after a blowout loss like the Titans had, is 61% all time, which the Titans fit that criteria. Asked to do the Commanders, by the way, this week. If you're feeling gutsy on the Commanders, I guess go for that because they meet that criteria as well. But all of those reasons tell me Tennessee going to cover plus 2.5. This is a great home spot for them. I think that they win the game outright.
Agree with for the show. You kind of have to.
Are we adding this to the vibes pick category?
Yes, I was about to say.
All right.
My reasoning, this is the second certified producer JT vibes pick of the year.
Okay.
We're 1-0 so far on our vibes picks.
This is true.
I'm not doubting that it's going to be a close game. However, if the line was like 3, I probably would stay away from it. Just getting them under the field goal right there. This feels like it could come down to a field goal in this game, like it has so many times before with this matchup. And I do think that maybe Money Mac just comes back and takes his rightful place on the sofa that is Nissan Stadium again.
Okay.
So it's going to be a close game. Like I don't hate either side of this bet. I just think that this game is going to be very, very close this week. And at the field goal, obviously you're going to take the Titans. I still feel pretty confident that this is a fine bet, even though, hey man, sometimes
40% of the time the pros are stupid.
Yes, and that's kind of what I've been living on so far, and I've been making money. So let's see if I channel Icarus this week.
Or do you fly too
close to the sun? We'll see.
All right, to recap the best bet gauntlet for week 4, JT taking one favorite, Cincinnati minus 2.5, a road favorite at Tennessee. It's 4 dogs. The Jets plus 9.5. Wait for that 10 versus Kansas City. Baltimore plus 3 at Cleveland. Houston plus 3 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Tampa Bay plus 3.5 getting the hook at New Orleans. I'm taking 2 favorites. Give me Jacksonville minus 3. They're home away from home in London against Atlanta. Buffalo minus 2.5 versus Miami. And then 3 dogs. Tennessee plus 2.5 as a home dog against Cincinnati. Green Bay plus 2.5 as a home dog against Detroit. And the Rams, a road dog of 1.5 at the Indianapolis Colts. That is our best bet gauntlet, and that is our show.
And one more bet. I think because we do have some people in the comments who are going to be very mad if we don't do this, and I do think it's kind of funny to do. Logan Grady wants a BOOMBOZZ beer bet so bad here.
Beer. So what do we need to do?
So we take one side of the line, or we both just make a bet
on the Thursday night game.
On the Thursday night game.
Okay.
And I'll give you a lock that I really like this week.
Okay, that I need to take the opposite of.
You don't have to.
Okay, what do you propose?
I'm going to put this out here as a lock this week.
Okay,
on the
all right.
BOOMBOZZ beer bet. Pay for your drinks tonight, wherever you are. Hopefully you're at BOOMBOZZ, but wherever you are, hopefully you pay your drinks tonight. With this one, I'm taking Luke Musgrave over 35.5 yards, receiving yards, and I'm also taking the over in targets at 3.5 right now. This Detroit team has given up the 3rd most yards to tight ends this season. Luke Musgrave, despite Christian Watson coming back, has been targeted a lot in this offense. He's getting a good connection with Jordan Love. I like that bet tonight.
So 35.5 yards for Musgrave. I have put 0 effort or thought into this, and I'll just for the love of the game, I'll take the under. Why not? I'll take the under. We'll see who has to buy somebody a beer tonight. That's our BOOMBOZZ beer bet. We'll prepare for that better next week. Thank you for reminding us on that, Logan. All right, now we're done. Appreciate everybody being with us. We ran a little bit long today, but that's how it goes here at BOOMBOZZ. Cannot wait to pack up and head over to the bar, grab that drink, and watch this Thursday night football game. Should be a good one. Make sure you're subscribed at our Broadway Sports Media YouTube page. Like we said, Broadway Sports Media on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. It's free. Helps us out a lot. Consider it a personal favor if you do that for us. Make sure you're following us on social media at Hot Read Pod, on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram. Great show content going up there more and more as the season rolls along. Until Monday, Sunday evening live, when we are recapping Titans Bengals, whatever the result may be. We will talk to you then. Make sure to come tune in with us live to either celebrate breaking the Bengals curse or panic that the Titans are dropping to 1-3. We'll be there usually in the around halftime of Sunday Night Football for folks that are wondering. Sunday Night Football halftime, come tune in, talk Titans with us. Until then, for producer JT, I'm your host, Easton Freeze. This has been the Hot Read Podcast. We'll talk to you next week.